This episode might piss you off because dopamine debt explains why discipline suddenly feels impossible. Matter of fact, high performers and ADHD folks don't burn out from work, they burn out from unearned dopamine. All right, let's get something straight out of the gate. By the way, I'm Gonzalo Gonzo Herrero, your host at Rise 41. And today we're going to be talking about dopamine debt and explain it in simple terms so that you can identify the issue and, more importantly, take action so that you can improve your life and your life quality. So let's get something straight right out of the gate. If you feel unmotivated, fired, but wired, like you're on fire, but wired, or you're scrolling like a zombie, at work. If you feel addicted to stimulation but bored with life, so like stimulating things are still exciting, but life as a whole is kind of boring. Let me explain. You don't have a motivation problem, okay? You don't have an ADHD problem. You don't have a discipline problem at all. You have dopamine debt. And just like financial debt, it feels great while you're spending, but right up until the bill shows up and starts breaking your knees like a mafia thug in a bad movie, it's dopamine debt. So today I'm going to explain it in terms that are simple so that, without a lot of neuroscience jargon and stuff, without any of this monk, discipline nonsense, and without telling you to live in a cave and meditate for 12 years. Okay. I'm going to give you some practical advice that you can hopefully work for. And by the way, this is for people, let's face it, it's not for everybody. This is for high performers, for people with ADHD brains. Probably bodybuilders could get something out of it. Entrepreneurs and high performance professionals absolutely will get something out of it. Or anyone who feels overstimulated, underpowered, and like you're stuck in neutral. By the end of this episode, hopefully also you'll understand what dopamine actually is, how dopamine debt is created, why modern life is basically a dopamine loan shark. Like I said, that whole mafia thing is going to be a theme, and why bodybuilding works when everything else fails. That's my cheat code. And how to climb out of dopamine debt without becoming boring or joyless or weak or a terrible person to be around with. So if this sounds interesting to you, let's go. Let's dive in. So, part one, excuse me, what dopamine actually is. So the first mistake that a lot of people make is they think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. And that's wrong. That's absolutely not correct. Dopamine is about anticipation, drive, pursuit, and effort. It's the pursuit hormone. Okay. It's what gives you that thrill of the hunt. Dopamine doesn't make you happy, it makes you move. It's the chemical that says, all right, go get that. Or it says, shoot, try again, do it again. Or this is worth your effort, go for it. Hey, you're suffering now, but there's going to be a reward later. That's what dopamine is. Pleasure comes after dopamine. Dopamine comes before pleasure. So here's the simple version. Dopamine is the fuel in the engine, right? And pleasure is the exhaust. It's the result after you burn it, okay? Modern life, the problem with modern life is that it lets you blast the exhaust without even building the engine, let alone running it. And that's the trap. That's why you feel the way you feel, because you don't understand and know how this system operates. All right, so now we've explained at a high level how dopamine works and what it is. So here's the second part. Think about the dopamine bank account. Okay? You make deposits, dopamine deposits, if you will, with effort when you try and do something hard. Delayed gratification. Hey, I'm doing this activity because later I'm going to do or get this reward or whatever. The result will be this thing. Training. Again, I use bodybuilding. That's my cheat code. Doesn't have to be yours, but it's something that requires effort. Training is definitely a way to make a deposit into your dopamine bank account. Learning new things. Absolutely. That requires effort because it takes effort to learn the new thing, and the payoff is you'll know something new, right? Solving hard problems. Same thing. In the moment, think of a chess game, The moment you're playing it might be hard, but when you win, hopefully, you'll get that reward, right? That stimulus of reward. And doing uncomfortable things, making yourself do uncomfortable things. Maybe it could be something as simple as I don't know, a 2 mile jog, or I don't know, 5 mile walk, a hike, something along those lines, something that requires actual effort and makes you a little bit uncomfortable. These are ways that, again, all of these that I've just named are ways to make deposits into your dopamine bank account. Now, let's talk about the withdrawal part of it. Said you make withdrawals every time you use social media, doom scroll, if you're watching porn, if you're eating junk food, if you're doom scrolling, again, drugs, where like you take something to feel something, endless entertainment, the Netflix, are you still watching, the Netflix binge, cheap novelties, things that require no effort and give you payoff immediately. That's where you stand. That's the problem, actually. Your brain doesn't like the overdrafts to your dopamine account. When you repeatedly spike that dopamine with no effort by doing the things I just mentioned, like scrolling through social media, eating some junk food, the endless entertainment without any effort, just sitting on the couch, just watching TV or whatever. Video games will do this too, because again, low effort, and video games are insidious also because they'll give you like small things to level up, which give you dopamine hits every time you level up, and just playing this game, which is already easy and fun, level up, more dopamine. Your brain doesn't like overdrafts on its dopamine bank account. So when you repeatedly spike it with no effort, what happens? Your brain will adapt. And when it adapts, it'll do things like it'll lower your baseline motivation, right? It'll make effort feel heavier because it's like an exercise. Like you're not exercising, it doesn't require you a lot of effort from you to get that dopamine. So of course, now when you do have to make an effort, it feels heavier. Making normal life feel boring because again, you're so used to getting those cheap thrills with no effort that regular normal life, which has its own challenges, becomes kind of boring. And it makes your pain tolerance collapse because again, you're not comfortable being uncomfortable. You lose the practice of being uncomfortable, which you desperately need to do things that are a little bit harder than normal life. You need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And so what happens? This is how people end up, addicted to screens. By the time they're 35, they're completely burnt out. They're unable to focus and they're unable to enjoy like the simple wins in life, which is a terrible place to be because you don't want that. And by the way, more caffeine's not going to save you from that burnt out blue feeling. It's not going to work. It doesn't work like that. All right. So the third part of this how to essay, if you will, is explaining how modern life creates that dopamine debt and how that works. So that again, forewarned is forearmed, so that you're ready, so that you can start thinking of your strategies of how to improve on this. So modern society is basically a dopamine casino. You can see it that way because it provides infinite novelty with the internet and AI and all the various entertainment alternatives that we have. I mean, literally, you're in the age of infinite novelty is a perfect way to put it. You can find something new with zero effort very quickly in our society. There's zero friction. Everything is designed to be a easy user experience. And this is by design because they want you, whoever is the owner of whatever it is that you're consuming, they want you to consume more. So they want to make it frictionless. They want to make it easy, again, zero effort. And with no effort required, you can see where this is going already, since now you understand from the prior section how the dopamine bank account works. So your brain evolved to earn dopamine through different activities back in the day. So hunting, gathering food for survival. That's how you earn your dopamine. Building things, again, shelter, etc. Things for survival, building society, working with other people, training, again, things that require effort that have a delayed payoff. Training is one of those things. It could be physical training, it could be like studying, it could be any kind of effort that has a delayed result. Creating new things, say if you're an artist kind, creating something requires effort, right? You have to think about it, you have to execute on it, and then the piece exists. That's where you get your dopamine. And just surviving as a whole. Okay. Basically, it's a survival mechanism when you really look behind the scenes. It encourages you to do difficult things that will ensure your survival. So that's how your brain evolved to earn dopamine. But now it gets dopamine for just sitting around, clicking on the computer or your phone, watching stuff passively. You're not a participant, you're just watching stuff, swiping, swipe left, swipe right. It's again effortless. Or consuming, be it like, say, fast food, for example, or entertainment, things of that nature, things that will like give you the dopamine hit without effort. Again, frictionless. It's like putting race fuel into a lawnmower, basically. And let me be blunt, your brain was not designed for TikTok, for porn, for DoorDash, for Netflix and unlimited comfort. Your brain was not meant to work like that. You didn't fail, okay? It's very important that you understand you're not broken. You didn't fail. The environment we live in is what's broken when you think about it from a dopamine perspective. And ADHD brain specifically, we're dopamine Ferraris driving through a school zone. That's one way of looking at it. High sensitivity, high reward seeking, and low tolerance for boredom already because of your ADHD. So this is why so many high performers end up either, they're crushed by overstimulation or they're rescued by something being brutally structured, which brings us to my cheat code to bodybuilding. If you watch Rise 41, we're big on the physical fitness and optimization, not just mental and spiritual, but it all works together. So part 4. So let me explain. And I have an entire episode, which you can check right here on this channel, about specifically how and why bodybuilding fixes dopamine debt. But I'll do a summarized version here on this fourth part of this video essay, if you will. And let me explain. Bodybuilding works because it does the opposite of modern life. So it forces a couple of things. It forces delayed gratification because it's not like you go to the gym, you do your training and boom, you look like freaking Schwarzenegger. That's not how it works. So there's delayed gratification. There's effort before the reward. You have to do this many, many, many times in order to see the rewards of that physique, growing or whatever it is, those aesthetics. Pain before progress. It'll hurt. You'll be sore. There's a lot of pain involved. A lot of like, hey, I gotta go and do the thing and go to the gym and get under the bar and sweat and make the effort. And all of those things have to happen before you can progress. As a matter of fact, you can argue that you need enough stimulus that is almost painful in order to progress. Because if you keep it like where you're comfortable, you're not going to progress. You're not going to change. It also requires structure. You have to like, I'm going to go, I don't know, strength train 3 times a week for an hour, whatever it is. And these are the exercises I'm going to do. So that requisition or requirement, sorry, of structure also helps with fixing the dopamine debt. It also is repetitive. Again, like I said, you're going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday for an hour. I'm going to do this exercise over and over and over. That repetition, again, it's effort. It's effort, and effort helps you with your dopamine account. And last, there's the discipline part, which is the learning the skill of doing things that you don't want to do because you should do them. And being able to tell your brain, yes, I know you don't want to do this thing, but we're going to do it anyway because we have to do it. Again, there are no shortcuts, no hacks, no likes, no instant payoff. It's just work. So you lift. In the case of bodybuilding, you suffer, you eat clean because, again, your nutrition has to be on point to get the benefits. You're going to sleep so you can rest and recover, and then you're going to repeat that process over and over and over. But guess what? It sounds miserable, but slowly something magical does happen. And your dopamine baseline starts rising as you do this, okay? Effort starts feeling good again. Discomfort starts becoming more tolerable. Your motivation stops being fragile. All of a sudden, your motivation's a lot stronger. Your confidence becomes internal rather than externally driven. Bodybuilding is basically dopamine rehab with plates and chalk. It's what it is. And sweat, lots of sweat. And that's why people who stick with it, like me, say like, and I can say this is not an exaggeration, this saved my life. Okay, it's not because of the muscles. Okay, the muscles are almost like a byproduct. It's because it recalibrates your brain. So consider that. Bodybuilding is a hack when it comes to dopamine and improving your dopamine debt. Now, fifth part of this essay is signs for you to recognize you should be aware of that you're in dopamine debt. Okay. So that because these should be like the warning signs, like, you should do something about it in order to fix the situation. So let's call it out. You're probably in dopamine debt if you need constant stimulation to feel okay, to feel normal, that's a sign of dopamine debt. If you're bored, you get anxious. Absolutely. This happens to me all the time, and I have to like reset my dopamine and be very aware of it. When I'm bored, I can get very, very anxious. This has improved over the last few months and years through active practices. But if I didn't know better, that anxiety when you're bored, sign of dopamine debt. You can't focus on one task. Like you're working on one thing, but you're already thinking of 20 other things that you want to do. That's another sign of dopamine debt for sure. Starting things and not finishing them, huge sign, especially for ADHD folks. You start a project, start a thing, and you just don't finish it. You just go on to the next thing. Again, because it's not giving you dopamine, you're in dopamine debt. You chase motivation instead of building motivation. This goes back, for example, to the bodybuilding example. Oh, I'm not going to go to the gym unless I'm motivated. But paradoxically, I'm going to go to the gym because it's the right thing to do is what's going to build that motivation. So think about that. You feel tired, but you're restless. So you're tired, your energy level is low, but you're restless. You want to go do things. You can't just relax and recover when you're tired. You're restless. And then the other one, this one hit really hard personally. It's you know what to do, but you don't do it. Like I know how to go to the gym, but I just can't. That's a huge sign right there of that dopamine debt. And it's not laziness, okay? That's a nervous system screaming for structure. It's basically your nervous system saying like, we need this dopamine, but we don't know how to get it. So those are signs again that you should be super aware of so that you know that it's time to address this issue and actively work on improving your dopamine debt loan ratio, if you will. So, all right, sixth part, very important. How to pay off the dopamine debt. Now we're talking solutions. This is the actionable piece. This is what you're here in this video for. So, and here are the good news. You don't need to quit life and live in the woods or become a monk or, I don't know, like meditate for 12 years and spin the prayer wheels in Tibet. You don't need to do any of that. You just need to like flip the ratio. And what do I mean by flipping the ratios? Number one, earn your dopamine first. No stimulation before effort. Make sure you have the effort first, and then you get the stimulation. So again, train, lift in my case, but whatever physical endeavor it is that requires effort that you enjoy. Maybe it's like play a game of tennis. I don't know, pickleball, whatever. Walk, take that walk, which requires effort. Work, actually work at your craft, whatever that may be. Create something new if you're a creative type, if you're an artist, work on your craft again, and then get the reward. Okay. It's important that you make the effort again so you can earn it. Second part that you're going to like actively be aware of is that you're going to add some friction. You're going to add friction back to your effort. So make junk harder to access. If you have an issue with junk food and that's your dopamine fix, don't have junk food in the house. Don't say you're not going to eat junk food, but just don't have junk food and snacks in the house. Why? Because now you've added friction. If I want to like have some junk food or a snack that's unhealthy, I got to get in my car and go get it. Okay? Don't DoorDash it because that's the whole point. Okay? Now I have to like either, walk to the store or drive to the store to go get my junk food fixed. I've added friction. So now by adding friction, I'm at least, yes, I may end up maybe consuming that non-healthy food or whatever, but I've added friction and made it harder to get it, which starts the cycle of earning back that dopamine debt or paying it off. Okay. Another one, we talked about it, but I'm going to reiterate it. Lift heavy things, okay? Resistance training, to me, in my opinion, for most people, it's a non-negotiable, especially as you age. Once you become 40 plus, strength training becomes mandatory and it becomes life-saving and life-extending and health span extending. And we'll talk about that in other essays and other videos. But it's neurological medicine. It's going to help your brain. Forget the physical part. Your brain is going to thank you for lifting heavy things, as stupid as it and primitive as it may sound. Fourth thing, be okay and embrace boredom. Okay? Boredom is dopamine recovery because it's where creativity comes back online. I'll give you an example. When you go outside for a walk, don't put on a podcast or music or anything like that. Walk in absolute silence in nature. At first, you'll be bored to death, but I guarantee you that after a few minutes, you'll start hearing things you didn't hear before. Your thoughts will start organizing in your mind. You will start earning that dopamine. Believe me, you will feel so much better. And by the time you're done, the reward will be obvious because you will feel amazing. And it's just as simple as eliminating those frictionless distractions. Just take them away as you're doing this, okay? And the other thing is, if you can, stack pain with purpose. So, for example, now we're getting to the biohacking kind of world. Possibly there's some context here, but I'll give you an example of pain that has purpose, that there's a reason why you're doing it. Cold exposure, people who do ice baths or cold plunges, for example. In the moment, it's terrible. When you come out, you get that dopamine, hit. Hard workouts in the moment, again, oh, I hate it, I'm dying. But let me tell you, that runner's high, for example, after a hard run, that's a real thing. And that's what pain with purpose means. Getting up early in the morning. At first, it might not be something you want to do. You don't want to get up early. I get it. Not everybody's a morning person. I've become a morning person. But eventually, that effort of getting up early will translate into, again, pain with purpose. And don't do these things because they're trendy or they're Instagram friendly or whatever. It's because these things work and they will rebuild your drive. They will rebuild and help you pay off the dopamine debt. It's not about punishment at all either. Don't look at it negatively like that. These are practices that are difficult, but that help with restoration and to restore your dopamine levels. Okay. All right. So now the conclusion after all this. So here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Okay. Motivation is not something you wait for. It's something you earned. Okay. And dopamine debt doesn't mean you're broken. This is important. It means you've been living in a system designed to drain you. It's the environment around you that's broken. Okay. You don't need more hacks. You don't need more supplements. You don't need more peptides. You don't need more stimulants. Caffeine is not going to fix this. What you need is to realize that you need structure, that you need resistance, that you need to have some standards, okay? And a willingness to suffer on purpose, to be uncomfortable or being comfortable being uncomfortable. All right? If you build that body, the mind will follow. Okay? So go ahead and think about it because just pay off the debt. You can regain your drive and you can become dangerous again, dangerous and powerful again. Take your life back. So, anyway, that's all I have for today. This is Gonzo from Rise 41. Stay disciplined, comment, like, subscribe, put stuff in the comments below. Let's have a discussion, and I hope that this helps you. So, again, pay off the debt, regain the drive, and become dangerous again. This is Rise 41. Stay disciplined.